health problem that all of us are facing right now is, of course, COVID. And we've got so many fears and questions which we want to be answered. So we are really fortunate, and I'm delighted to have Dr. Colonel H.S. Ratti with us today, a senior epidemiologist, a specialist in public health. He is the former Director Health Indian Armed Forces. Good evening, Doctor. Welcome to Expert Matters. And of course, you have had so much of experience up till now. Please tell us a little more about it and what you are involved with right now, Doctor.
Yeah, good evening to you all. Thank you so much for getting me on to Expert Online. And as you've said, I've been in the armed forces for about 2 years of service as a public health specialist and an epidemiologist. And now I'm out in the retired life as well as my freelancing as a consultant in healthcare.
Yeah.
In field of I have multiple hats. My main interest areas lie in infectious diseases, and basically safe injection practices I'm promoting, and I'm also now getting on to biotechnologies, field of treatment of cancers, where frontline cutting edge technology is being brought into India for cancer treatment options for patients who are in stage 4 of cancers. So these are a couple of my things.
Wonderful.
And having been all around the countryside as part of my armed forces, having had a couple of experiences in public health, handled a few emergencies like Bhuj earthquake from day 1 onwards, and another few odd emergencies which we come across in our armed forces life, we are already there to help. Similarly, in the current emergency of COVID, I am also a part of the team which is helping out people manage it under home and self-quarantine care. As a general practitioner, I at the moment do have my small practice, and I use this platform of Expert Online as a useful tool in my practice to reach out to people who have problems and are able to talk to me through the Expert Online.
Thank you so much, Doctor. We are really fortunate to have you with us today. So let's jump into the topic straight away. This COVID has hit us all of a sudden without any warning, and it has completely changed our lives. So what is the present situation with regard to COVID, and how is it going to impact our lives in the future?
See, the COVID infection no doubt has taken us by surprise. No, absolutely. And the initial responses from the governments all over the world was to gear up the structure, the health infrastructure, the testing facilities, buy time in form of lockdowns, reduce the infection load initially, and have your healthcare facilities toned up, ready to receive in case there is an emergency. Because this is one infection which was totally unbridled, absolute virgin with nothing known. The only advantage today in 2020 has been the advancing technology, which has helped us telescope various timelines as far as the understanding COVID, the RNA which causes it, mRNA, the RNA sequencing, the structure.
Yeah.
And slowly we are understanding how it undermines the body's various functions, the organs, and the plethora of illnesses it leaves behind in terms of attacking the lungs, the brain, the blood systems, which leave us at times, should there be a delay, a family is devastated in form of deaths.
So, Doctor, there's so much of a kind of a fear psychosis about it. What are the precautions? How can we be careful? How can we save ourselves from this?
The most common method of saving ourselves is to be aware of it and have complete knowledge. Yes, at the moment, certain actions like social distancing, wearing of mask, washing of hands are measures uh, which help us in ensuring that we get a lower infection load. And few measures which as an individual which we all can take at home are, of course, hand washing, as we said, the first three. Add on to it, I also add on is at times drinking warm water,
Okay.
carrying out warm saline gargles once in a while. And should you feel at any moment you are down with some fever or an ailment which you cannot hit it off as COVID immediately, please start taking steam inhalations.
Okay. And with regard to hand washing, how many times in a day and after which activities should we make sure that our hands are clean?
As long as you're at home, there's no limit to hand washing, and there is no prescribed number of times you need to. Ideally, anywhere you feel you have touched a surface which is likely to be contaminated or undertaken a task where your hands have been in touch with surfaces or items of not of daily use which you have routinely with you anywhere outside, it's suggested you come in or go out of the house with a hand wash.
Okay. And doctor, what are the symptoms? You did mention a little bit just now, but what are the exact symptoms one should look out for? And is there some kind of, treatment which is possible? I would like to tell
The
also
most
that
common
your
symptom,
whole family was
yes,
with COVID. You yourself had COVID, and thankfully you've recovered. It must have been very difficult for you, I can understand. But what are the symptoms that we look out for, and what are the possible
see, the
treatments?
most common symptom which COVID has been presenting is an upper respiratory tract infection. It starts with a running nose, sore throat, irritation in the throat, or maybe cough at a later date, or may just be fever coming up. Fever may be up to about 99 to 100, or you just may be feeling feverish. You are likely to dismiss it on day one as maybe a weather change, maybe pollution, maybe chronic cough. Oh, I also have it every time at this time of the year.
Yeah,
It's
change.
nothing new. Oh, I always have this kind of wheezing or difficulty in breathing. These are the most likely first signs of things. And please do not ignore fever and push it to another, link it to another source of likely where fever can occur, let's say pollution or maybe breathlessness, which may be due to pollution. No, please be aware and please be conscious that by day 2, if fever persists, you must raise your hands as far as COVID is concerned.
Okay. And what is it better to stay at home and contact a doctor and treat yourself, or
Yes.
one go to a hospital?
I would suggest by day 2, in case your fever has not subsided, on self-medication or your friends or Googling it or whatever your sources of initial in this world of internet be and social media, I suggest you get in touch with a doctor and also try to go in for a test on day 3. That is your RT-PCR tests, which are available around the countryside, either through private labs or through a government lab system. Whichever system you want to get into, please go in for a test as early as day 3, I would suggest, and start off on certain medications by day 2. Do not ignore. The earlier COVID infection, normally most of us tell us to keep on holding on till it is test positive. Personally, I feel if I have to win the battle against COVID, I have to go headlong and full steam ahead from day 2 or day 3. Every day gained is a plus point for me as a doctor. Every day delayed, I tend to may tend to lose the patient to severity of the disease. The more delay the day, if the treatment starts on day 5, I'm less confident rather than if the treatment starts on day 2 or day 3.
And the treatment differs from patient to patient and the severity of the...
By and large, I would say no. Broad guidelines have been laid down for initiating the treatment by the Government of India. However, some fine tunings will have to be made based on the age of the patient, presence of any comorbidities like hypertension, diabetes, kidney failures, bronchial asthma, if a patient, elderly patients, especially in elderly patients. Modifications may have to be done in a child, baby, or in a breastfeeding mother, where you will find you are limited by the number of what medications she can be given. By and large, we start with some common treatments which are helpful and not harmful to the body. So there is no harm in starting those baseline treatments. Adding specific antivirals would be based more on the result of RT-PCR positive result. Then you're sure of it and go ahead with it. Keep monitoring yourself with a pulse oximeter. Do not exercise too much. Do not exert yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And there is also that even on day 2 or 3, if the fever persists, there is enough exhaustion, a feeling of exhaustion, early breathlessness sets in moment, even if you're talking on mobile phones for long.
Oh, okay.
Please avoid that.
So a lot of rest is required.
Yes. 2 to 3 days till the fever comes down, absolute bed rest is desired. Isolation is desired. Separate set of clothes or separate set of utensils for your eating food which are given to you, duly washed and kept in your own room. If you can separate, if you have a room for yourself, nothing like it. Isolation definitely helps. Otherwise, family members in the household are also likely to get infection from day 1 or day 2, depending. The severity depends on the infection load which transfers from the patient to the recipient.
So, doctor, as you had mentioned, your family was down with COVID and so were you. It must have been really tough, as a doctor.
Yes. I and my family members also went through this COVID experience last November from Diwali day on, from 1st of November, in fact.
Yeah.
And yes, it was very tenseful experience handling them. I had to manage them also equally. Luckily for us, we had a mild infection. We were able to catch it early on day 2 itself, get my family members tested by day 3, and start them on antiviral medications from day 3 onwards and other immunity buildings. Yes, not to mention, I forgot to mention, please isolate yourself and use mask. Mask helps you 2 ways. For the infected person, it helps that person to not to transmit and throw out the viral load onto various surfaces or on transmitting onto other persons. So wearing of mask is a desirable thing. However, there are people who say, if I'm isolated at home in one room, nobody else coming, can I take out my mask? Why not? You can, unless you're really coughing very badly. If you're coughing, sneezing, or there is a running nose, please wear a mask. At least for first 4 days, till virus becomes inactive or less effective.
And doctor, what exactly happens when one gets COVID? How does it impact the
See,
body?
there are two phases of, or three phases of COVID infection as we are trying to understand the pathology of it. The first is by the virus itself when it attacks you. And that when it attacks you, the body reacts in form of a fever,
Mm-hmm.
a cough, dry cough, or maybe an irritation in the throat. And and as the virus lodges in the blood system and enters the lungs, it enters the brain. It enters the blood system. It diminishes the capacity of the blood to fight the infections, what we normally call immunity levels. It can cause, if the multiplication of the virus takes much faster than you are able to control it, or to limit its multiplication, it can cause havoc in the blood system, whereas it's supposed to release micro clots which go and lodge or sit in the lungs.
Okay.
The lungs get destroyed by the clots which go into the alveolar spaces. And that hinders the air exchange, which normally the lung is responsible for. In very certain cases, in advanced severe cases, virus can go and lodge as microclots, can go and lodge in the brain and have effects there also in form of paralysis or hemiparesis or maybe stroke, maybe long-term effects. So these are the secondary effects. What we call it is in our medical terms, is the cytokine storm, which takes place on, especially between around 8th to 12th day. So we got to be careful from 8th to 12th day, even if there is no fever. The fever generally tends to subside in mild cases or moderate cases by day 2 or 3. Maybe up to day 5, it can carry on, but it does subside. And that is the time when you are measuring your oxygen levels through pulse oximeter. You may feel it is dropping from 97, 98 to 95, or in severe cases, it may drop below 90s. And that is the time when you have to be rushed to the hospital for artificial or assisted ventilator support. And certain other medications which are generally given in the hospital, in hospital settings to be able. So this happens as phase 2 in day 8 to day 12.
So, Dr.
You become fine by about day 15 if you have had mild and moderate infection. There are known cases that even after having come back from the hospital absolutely fine, RT-PCR negative, suddenly on 16th to 18th day, you again come back with fever. So that is the third phase of, or extended second phase of COVID infection, which starts off and may just be devastating for the family if not controlled. However, as COVID has been there only for about a year, the long-term effects are unknown as of now, but 3 to 6 month follow-up, 3-month follow-ups have given us clues that it does leave a residual damage in the lungs, the virus, long-term damage. It does leave the microclots which have formed or get deposited in the brain and the lungs, or maybe the kidneys. It does leave some form of damage. We are anticipating number of cases, number of reports have been coming in terms of fibrosis of the lungs, especially in the elderly patients, in long-term survivals, cases of dementia setting, early dementia setting in, also it's feared, it will set in. So these are long-term effects of the virus, which is expected. But yes, there are small studies, not as yet confirmed or long-term effects. The information is still trickling in.
So, Doctor, listening to you, I was just wanting to say that it just makes it very clear to all of us that it's best to just avoid and try and be as safe as possible. And as you told us that there are also long-term effects. So I just wanted to ask you, there can be other side effects, like, for example, you become more sensitive to things, sensitive to allergies or something. Is there a
Yeah,
change in the body?
is, in the active phase of the infection, that is day 2 to day 5, you're likely to have loss of sense of smell and taste,
Mm.
and which comes back to you by about day 10, no doubt. And everything is being given fine. You carry out your blood tests to monitor various blood parameters at that time, day 4 or day 5, monitor your lung things. Secondly, post-COVID 15th day or 20th day, if you're fine, yes, there is a chance that there will be definitely exhaustion, early fatigability, and you're probably easy irritability is equally there. You're likely to react to people, you're likely to react to situations, and these three things definitely do take place by about third or fourth week.
Mm.
And they carry on up to 6 to 8 weeks till you fully recover.
Okay, so even after you've recovered from COVID, you can be sensitive to various things which you might not
Absolutely.
understand
Yeah,
or
one is sensitive to fatigability and irritability, and possibly that's it, breathlessness. It does carry on. Depends on the amount of damage it has done to the lungs.
So, well, it's best to be.
Yeah, it is something which we have to be absolutely aware of. And well, there are people who are lucky enough to get mild infection, and people who tend to ignore are likely to get into severe infection. I hope majority of us will come out with only mild or moderate infection. And one way is, please use masks outside. Please limit the load which tends to enter your body. And be very early in catching
The symptoms, be alert about it.
And thinking that, yes, it is COVID. Please don't think, I did not go there, so it's not for me. I would not have got COVID.
Anyone can get it.
Anyone.
Doctor, right now everyone is talking about the vaccine. So are we likely to get it soon in India? And if we do, when, and who are the people who will be getting it first?
Yes, the vaccine is the hot thing going on. Everybody is looking forward to it. There are 4 or 5 candidate vaccines which are hot, including one in India from Bharat Biotech and the Serum Institute. The Indian vaccine is hopefully expected somewhere mid-January. But whether it will be made available, there will be, because there are limited productions and large demand. I think Government of India is likely to prioritize the people who get the vaccine. While it may be available to some in the common public, the Government of India is going to push the vaccine maybe towards the list of priority people, elderlies, youngsters, young babies, or maybe people who are compromised, people who are on dialysis or with some chronic kidney failures or with heart failures or heart diseases, and healthcare workers. Definitely, because they are the ones who are at most at risk. So all the healthcare workers who probably would be working in hospitals, clinics, private or otherwise public, are likely to be one of the first ones to receive vaccine. There are other vaccines from Pfizer and other things.
It will be given at home, or we'll have to go to hospitals and
the logistics are being worked out. Probably it may not be given at home. We will have to be able to go to some center to get the vaccine because it requires cold chain.
Okay.
and temperature maintenance during the cold chain. It may not be possible to move from one home to another. I think Government of India will carry out at various centers wherever they are carrying out the testings. Those centers will be the centers where they will probably provide the vaccination also.
And should we all get it? That also everyone is
Madam, that is $1 million question. Desirable is all, but achievable may not be possible. And secondly, again, there are still questions which need to be answered scientifically about the vaccine.
Okay.
The data is being gathered. It's coming out in trickles. We are not yet aware of certain questions which are still floating in the scientific community as to who should get the vaccine. People who have had COVID, do they need a vaccine?
Yeah, I was going to ask you that, yeah.
People who do not have COVID, are they going to need the vaccine? Do people need to undergo a titer test for antibodies? If somebody already has some antibodies for the COVID, do they need a vaccine? These are questions which the scientific community is still answering. As we move forward, there is a lot of speculation. Please do not get carried away.
Okay.
Ideally, personally, I feel, depending on the vaccine, because the vaccines are slightly different, acting on various modalities of the virus which causes it. It may be wiser to undergo an antibody test and see the quantitative titer you have before getting a vaccine for yourself. Again, if you have a high antibody titer already in your body, how long and how protective it is, whether 3 months, 6 months, we really do not know. Right now, the COVID infection, which started in March, basically when we started studying, it's hardly 6 months old. The data which is available is 3 to 4 months. In pockets, various data are coming out, but the credibility of that data needs to be re-verified, accepted, before we really come out with some conclusions on it.
And do children also need to be given? And if yes, then what should be the age and what would be the kind of dosage?
It is anticipated that it is anticipated or it is expected that children are more resilient to this viral infections. And they're more pliable. Their organs are still in infancy stage, development stages. Probably they are able to battle the coronavirus much more stronger than the adults. At times, in the pediatric age group, there have been very limited cases and limited studies which have been published. People have just managed it empirically and symptomatically. May not be required to give directly any antivirals as yet, not much, especially in infants under 1 year of age. Children under 12 years age are supposed to be much more resilient, I would put it. There have been less people who have been infected in the younger age group. That's what the data is available to us shows. The maximum people have been adults and over 60 years of age. Mortality has been more common in people who have been above 60, 55 or 60 years of age, especially with comorbidities. This is an observation. This is what the data is suggesting as of now.
And Doctor, there are 2 doses, I think, of the vaccine.
Yes, most of the vaccines.
How long are you protected as such? After how many days after you
see the first dose? There are generally 2 dose vaccines. First dose and the second dose may be given somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks later. Again, manufacturers are coming out with protocols. They have not yet announced completely. It is anticipated the second dose may be given 4 weeks later. The development of or 2 weeks, between 2 to 4 weeks later, the development of immunity in the body starts at least 4 weeks after the first dose or 2 weeks after the second dose. of levels that would be protective against the infection.
So what is that?
So there is going to be a window period. There is going to be a window period after your first vaccination till your body develops enough antibodies to a critical level or a point at which it becomes protective. That particular point, efficacy point, or is expected to be 50% of development of the antibodies. That is what the governments have demanded from the vaccine manufacturer. But whether it is at 65% development of antibodies, quantitatively, the studies have yet to be published on it. It is also anticipated, there are confusing reports whether the vaccine is effective in 3 months, for 3 months or 6 months, as it is opposed to natural immunity, which people have got post-COVID infection, people who got infected in March or maybe in April. Only a select few handful countable numbers have come back with reinfection in the last 6 months.
Okay.
So it is hoped and presumed that natural infection causes immunity which may be lasting up to 6 months, because that's a time period from March to, let's say, October, September, till when the studies would have been done. People have remained unaffected, or they have not had reinfection. Reinfection has been limited to a very small numbers worldwide.
Mm-hmm. So will it be that we'll have to get this vaccine done annually, or is it?
Time will tell, but it is anticipated it will be an annual vaccination.
Okay, okay.
It is anticipated. I, as an epidemiologist, feel it will be an yearly. And once 2 to 3 years are passed, then only we can say that 3 years later, my antibody levels are still high and they're still protective. Would the vaccine have a longer time period? As of today, I cannot comment on it.
And there are a number of companies who have come up with these vaccines. So in your judgment, what is the best for us in India and would work?
I think what we are trying to get manufacturing within Bharat Biotech and would be a good vaccine to start with. Other vaccinations are going to be equally effective. There is a claim coming up that these vaccines are 90% are effective.
Mm-hmm.
If that be so, whether one vaccine is 91% or 94%, it will not make any difference, as long as I get an efficacy above 90%.
Mm-hmm.
And efficacy in terms of prolonged immunity being developed, that would be my critical factors.
And are there any side effects of the vaccine when we get it done?
As of now, vaccine trials are still on. And some people have reported some side effects. There have been media reports. There have been certain published medical scientific literature reports also of the side effects, but very, very limited. We have to await another 3 months before we really get this data.
Mm-hmm. Doctor, anything happens, it's like two sides of a coin. So do you think the COVID epidemic also has some kind of benefit? Have we gained in some way?
Oh, yes. Collateral benefits of COVID infection have been tremendous. As a public health fellow, I can vouch for it.
Yeah.
I can look at benefits coming down the line in terms of tuberculosis cases, personal hygiene, diarrhea, dysentery cases because of hand washing, less of accidents. I think the list is going on and on. Mm-hmm. It's being added on. There's a pollution benefit we have had with less people going out, hopefully less people traveling out using their cars, and pollution benefits in cities like Delhi, definitely. I mean, there's going to be collateral benefits which people will start looking at it 6 months down the line. And I look at it from public health view, the biggest beneficiary is going to be tuberculosis program in India.
Yeah, because you're not
yes.
in contact.
One, they are using masks. Second, they're doing hand washing. Third, they're social distancing. which was the main cause of tuberculosis, wherever there was overcrowding and low socioeconomic status, these things are improving. So I feel coming down the line, tuberculosis will be one of the most biggest beneficiaries, tuberculosis program as a collateral benefit. Of course, there are many others which are being listed now.
So, doctor, given the present scenario, and especially after we had this COVID,
that's the most positive way of looking at COVID infection. I look at it.
Look at the collateral benefits.
Yes.
I think that's a good way of looking at it. You know, our consciousness with regard
Absolutely.
to hygiene. Yeah.
As a family, we have become conscious. The literal people have become conscious that remaining healthy is your prime priority today. And if you're healthy, you're going to be productive. You will be able to work. You'll be able to earn for your family. It's as simple as that. The equations are very clear.
जो पहले कहा जाता था कि सेहत सबसे बड़ी नेमत है, good health is the biggest blessing. People are realizing that.
सही बोल रहे हैं, बिल्कुल सही.
Okay, doctor. So in this kind of a scenario, especially because of the COVID epidemic, what do you think that online virtual clinics or platforms like Expert Online, what role can they play at the moment? How beneficial are they?
The future is going to be virtual clinics, digital clinics. It is going to, another collateral benefit of COVID is digitalization. In various aspects, other fields, medicine, it's going to digitalize and change drastically, anticipated again. Many people would be using these kind of Expert Online platforms. And let me tell you, Expert Online platform is an excellent medium of interacting with the client, with the patients, and availability of doctor anytime, anywhere. Yeah. Of course, there is always the negative feeling, or the negative side is, doctor ne mera nabs nahi dekha.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, unhone mere ko dikha ke us tuti laga ke nahi dekha. That is the negative side of these. But gone are those days. We are now looking more on evidence-based medicines, practice of evidence-based medicine, where we look for evidence in terms of radiology or laboratory support to support our clinical diagnosis. Unfortunately, we have moved away from the clinical acumen of a doctor, which was nazab pakarna or stethoscope laga ke dekhna, usko touch karna, yahan dabana, wahan dabana. We have moved on to more of digitalization. Yes, the future, these platforms, Expert Online, is definitely, they're going to be a large demand for it.
Yeah, so
utilization.
Because before the treatment, as you said,
absolutely,
the doctor wants to see all the reports which can be uploaded on the platform.
Absolutely, and majority of the treatment, let me tell you, today the hospitalization will become limited to extremely serious cases. With all these digital platforms, Expert Online, majority of the cases will be treated at home. And there will be a lesser load on the hospitals coming forward. Only those extreme cases which really require hospitalization or a procedure may be admitted on a day basis. That's it. Although there is some talk of doing procedures in the hospital remotely also, using artificial intelligence and robot surgery. Probably that's still 3 to 5 years away, but yes, it will come subsequently.
And also after treatment, the monitoring,
yes,
the follow-up.
Monitoring, follow-up, anything.
As a health vault.
Absolutely.
All his records, and on Expert Online, you can add your family members.
Family members, you can do anything on, it's a wide platform, and I've used it. And it's a great platform.
Thank you, doctor. I'll just see what are the kind of questions which have come in. Someone asked that, if a ventilator is required, it said that it is for short time that it is useful. Otherwise, it can have long-term detrimental impact on the lungs. Is that true?
See, ventilator support to a patient whose lungs have been compromised depends on the degree of what level of damage it has left for the lungs and how is it going to deteriorate. If he's in a cytokine storm, not responding to many medications or something, yes, it can be very critical. There are many people who have come out of ventilator support also. And there are people, we have lost people also. I have lost people who have been on ventilator support. It is very difficult to predict which way are you going and when. There are people who have been well on 13th day or 14th day, discharged back home, and by 18th day, they are back to hospital, and I've lost them by about 30th or 35th day. So somewhere or the other, it's extremely unpredictable how the virus is going to react within your body. It is totally individualistic response. So build up your immunities with good health, vitamins, zinc added to it, vitamin C added to it. Ensure you have enough of vitamin D3 in your body, and multivitamins in terms of B complex. I think these are the things which will help you.
And with regard to diet, doctor?
Diet, as far as I know, there is going to be no restriction. Yes, if you have got COVID, there is a restriction on alcohol. Today only I've read a study which says up to 2 months, please do not consume alcohol.
Okay.
Again, it's a random study, needs much more scientific evidence on it, but still a study is a study which is scientifically published. But nevertheless, a good rich diet in fruits, green vegetables, healthy foods, boiled vegetables would definitely help you build up your immunity levels.
And someone has asked, hope there are no long-term effects on those who had mild infection.
Again, it is a matter of speculation. Long-term effects may be more than 3 months. It may be after 1 year. It all depends on the lung damages which has taken place, which is evidenced by a lung HRCT, which we do on day 6 and 7, or maybe repeated by day 11. If the count scores are high, out of 35 lungs, lobes, segments which we have in the lung, you have a higher damage of 10 or more, there is practically some residual damage may be expected. In form of fibrosis, it has been reported that lungs have been fibrosed, they have become hard, they are solid. Otherwise, lungs are very fluffy, lightweight, and full of air. But post-COVID, in some cases which have died, postmortem reports have reported that lungs are as solid as a rock.
Oh God.
So really, we don't know where all the dams are.
Is it safe, given the short duration of trial? I think this is with regard to the vaccine that someone has asked.
See, advancing technologies and technological methods which are available to us have helped us to telescope the timelines which are normally taken by trials up to 3 years or 4 years of trials. Today, they have telescoped it to less than 8 to 9 months, 6 months, or maybe even 1 year. Development of very specific virus antigens which will induce the necessary immunity within our body have been identified. Again, technological advances which have again telescoped to have sequenced the RNA virus of the corona within 2 months, I think has been a great technological advance. Whereas, let me tell you, 100 years ago, when the Spanish flu epidemic took place in 1919 and 18 and 19, the epidemic lasted 6 to 7 years, and they were able to control in 3 to 4 years' time. Today, we are already talking of managing this epidemic, bringing down the infection rates within 1 year. we are telescoping because of technological advances.
Does COVID offer lifelong immunity? Like someone has got it.
Billion-dollar question. We live lifelong. We'll see if we have the immunity. As of now, it's all wishful thinking.
Do we have better chances of getting herd immunity in India?
See, the herd immunity is in infectious diseases is termed to develop beyond 65% of the population who have been positive. Up to about 70%, 75%, and then balance 20-25% may get herd immunity. To achieve 65% being infected in India with a population of 1.3 billion, that makes it 80 million cases. Today, we are only 10 million cases as of today. We have still a long way to go. And all these 10 million today are natural infection-induced immunity. It is anticipated the vaccine will add, if we are able to cover even 20 million cases, vaccinations in 1 year, will add 20 million to the cases, to the things. So it'll still be around 30 to 40 million cases, let's say, in next 1 year. At that level, 30 to 40% of the population being covered either natural immunity or through vaccine, I look at it, is still, we are 30-35% of our population in India. We need to reach a magic figure of 65%. It will take 3 to 4 years. That's my calculation.
Mm-hmm. And people who might be suffering due to other illnesses, should they try and avoid going to a hospital? And as we mentioned, maybe try online. As long
yes,
as try and avoid.
Minimize your visits to the hospital, because hospitals, many of them are there, the virus is present or is infected. Though hospitals have taken care as far as disinfection is concerned. But yes, if you can minimize and avoid going to a hospital, is much better.
Even if you have surgeries which have to be done.
If they have to be done, elective surgeries or emergency surgery has to be done, it has to be done. Although some people have started elective surgeries procedures also, people are taking precautions, definitely. Why not? But if required, one can. I mean, one has to have the cost benefit analysis done for it.
And is it
worth the effort?
Is it safe to do air travel?
Yes. Personally, I feel what I've been given to understand, getting into the aircraft is, aircrafts have systems of air filtration and systems where we tend to sit one behind the other. We are not face to face. And with some masks and the face shield on, and their airflow systems which are in effect, which the airlines have put into effect, the unidirectional airflow, right from the roof downwards into the floor. The sucking is at the floor. So even if you tend to sneeze out or throw out the virus, it tends to fall on the floor and gets absorbed into the air. And as a rule, I'm told that airlines have been implementing air exchange every 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they are safe.
Okay, Doctor. Doctor, thank you so much for giving us all this time. I know you have another appointment, so we'll try and wind up now. Thank you so much for giving us time and all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for your effort and time. It's great talking. I'd love to interact with people in case anybody has any questions, either through Expert Online or through you. They're welcome to reach out to me any moment. Anybody has any, please do not ignore your early symptoms. Get back to a doctor either through Expert Online or through whichever way. Please stay safe and be conscious that you can be infected at any awkward place.
Yes.
Do not think that I went to this place, I couldn't have been infected, so there's no chance of me. No, please be aware. It can be any place, anytime, anywhere.
Yes. And I wanted to tell the viewers that if you want to consult Dr. Rati, you can log on to our website, expertonlineapp.com, and you can download his app and consult with him. You'll also be able to see all the special features of Expert Online. You can DM us on Facebook or Instagram too. So thank you so much, Dr. Rati, and thank you to all the viewers for having joined today for Expert Matters.
Thank you, ma'am. And thank you for the viewers who have joined in. Great talking to you.
Yeah.
Look forward. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Take care and be safe. Goodbye.